Hey there, this is You Can Write Songs podcast, and this is a continuation of last week's episode, which was on Atheist by Christian Lee Hutson.
So, yeah, last week I got bamboozled into learning Atheist by Christian Lee Hutson because we were both supposed to learn it, and then we came up with a different format, and somehow I got stuck with a tough song to play.
Yep, and I chose one much simpler that you'll hear next week.
But I'm glad because I had a lot of fun getting more acquainted with this song because there's so much I like about it. Like from the start, a lot of what I learned from playing Elliott Smith music came into play here again, but it was interesting to see those techniques kind of integrated from a different player. So a lot of the things I liked about it, things I haven't done before, is a lot of times he's playing the melody on guitar while he sings it, and that's a really cool sound.
No, that's one of the sounds. Like I remember bringing up, just like I didn't used to like that. Like for whatever, it seemed redundant.
Exactly,
but that has grown on me so much lately because of this album, and then because of Case Study 01 by Daniel Caesar. He does that in 2 or 3 songs on that album, and it's great. There's some of the most beautiful songs.
It is really cool. And so I was always a lot like you, to the point I was in a band that had a saxophone and a trumpet and a trombone and stuff. And a lot of times when they would write the horn parts, they would all be playing the same thing. And I was always like, what's the point of that? So then when I would write the horn parts, they would all be doing different things, which was cool, but it was chaotic. And I was always the type of like, if you have 2 guitarists, they both have to do different things all the time. And there's good things about that. But it's also nice if you have an idea that you really want to reinforce in the listener's mind, double it up somehow. And he does that so well. Another artist who does that a lot, and it used to drive me crazy, is actually Rev Payton's big damn band. He plays slide guitar, and a lot of times he sings what he's playing. And for a while, I was like, he should be doing something else. But I don't feel that way anymore. I think it's absolutely awesome. So that's something I'm excited to explore. The flip side of it is sometimes he's singing the melody, he's playing the melody, and he's playing the harmony to the melody on the guitar at the same time. And that's really cool too.
That's insane, yeah.
It really is. And the thing is, though, if you can already play the melody and sing the melody, it's not very much more effort as a player to add the harmony to. So I'm really excited about that. Another thing that I really liked about it is usually in fingerstyle music, traditionally, your thumb's going the whole time. So do, you're playing the bass. Elliott Smith, what he would do, and for a long time I thought it was because his thumb got tired. He'd be like bouncing the bass, but then he would jump and start strumming chords. Christian does that sometimes too. So like that's something I want to explore a little bit more in my own music because I usually stay consistent with my bass parts that I play with my thumb. So those are like a lot of the standout things I picked up from it. I've honestly already kind of been using them in my own music a little bit because like my favorite part about learning covers is I'll either get an idea for a new original, quote unquote original, per our conversation, or I'll have like a new tool in the toolbox to use when I'm starting to get stuck or if I want to add something new. So the song that I wrote yesterday, which was January 1st, because I don't know when people will hear this. I have this goal of writing 100 songs in 2021. But the song I wrote yesterday, I ended up on one part, I play the melody and the harmony on guitar while I sing it.
Nice.
And, yeah, dude. And it's I wouldn't have done that if I didn't learn this song.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting. And then the other thing that really jumps out to me musically is the melodies. No duh. But how smart they are and how close they stick together. There's no crazy jumps where you're like, how did he get from here to there? He carries you all the way through it, and he's just kind of walking up and down these same couple notes. And sometimes he gets a little bit higher, and sometimes he gets a little bit lower, but he's still kind of hanging out in that home base area. And home base in music, that's a good place to check in on. I think of like astronauts, like you're out in space, you got to go back to the space station at some point.
Yeah.
So
free up on supplies. Yeah.
Exactly. You don't want to be away from home for too long, I find.
Yeah. No, definitely. And yeah, no, like that's something that like you say, it like almost plays into like the cohesiveness, like what we were talking about earlier. Just he is so good. It's such a centered sound that he has. He's very just oriented at all times.
This is the sound of somebody who is not at the mercy of a lack of ability. A lot of times we find people, and myself included, you more so, no, I'm kidding, myself included, where it's like sometimes the decisions that you make as a songwriter aren't based on what the muse is telling you to do. It's based on, I think Julian Lodge put it best, sometimes you got to settle for the shit your hands can do.
Yeah.
And that's not a great place to be. Sometimes you have to live there, but I never hear Christian in that spot. It always sounds full of intent. It sounds exactly the way that I think he wants it to.
Yeah, no, that's like, that's such a unique talent to be able to have. And like, gosh, you know, like he doesn't strike you as an overly confident guy, but I just don't understand. I don't understand how, because like you'd have to be able to, you know, like you can hear. He's not compensating for anything with his music, you know. It's very sincere. He's not but he's still such a quiet character, such a reserved person and goofy and quirky when you see him in interviews and like and just talking in between songs and stuff. But then when he comes out, it's like he doesn't feel the need to like embellish or to be the maybe not the clown, like the ham, like the person that sticks out just to get the attention or just to, you know.
You don't get this good at guitar by having other things to do.
Yeah.
You know, like I get the sense that he's spent a lot of time sitting in his bedroom playing guitar. And I think to your point, and this is something I should have brought up, so I'm glad you did, is his guitar playing is absolutely heroic, but it's also invisible. It's there if you want to focus on it. Otherwise, it is there. He's focused on that melody, and everything he's doing is to bring out the best qualities of that melody. So you can overlook a lot of this incredible stuff he's doing because he does it so well. You don't notice. People use this example with bass playing a lot, is that bass playing is the foundation of a house. And if you walk into a house with a good solid foundation, you don't notice it, but if the foundation's not great, you notice it and you can't think about anything else because you're freaking marbles or rolling on the floor and stuff, you know, like, that's kind of how I feel about Christian's guitar playing too. It's just, there's a lot there. He's doing a lot of stuff, but it's not in your face. It's not distracting from the melody. It just seems like everything about any song on this album, doesn't matter which one you pick, has its perspective so locked firmly in place on what's important that it doesn't get bogged down by the other cool stuff happening.
Yeah. No, dude, it's like if Christian built a house that the foundation would be so level that you could literally place your marbles. There's a whole room that is just marbles.
The marble room.
On the floor, and they don't move.
Yeah, you can't roll them. It's just so perfect.
Yeah, it's so secure and steady that you'll never lose your marbles.
It's Nebraska. So next thing I want to talk about is lyrics, and lyrics are an interesting thing for me because, and you know this, when I listen to music, I don't hear the words. I hear the syllables. The syllables are really important to a melody. I hear the syllables, but I kind of hear the voice as an instrument. And like even a lot of my favorite songs, I don't know what they're about, and I couldn't tell you the lyrics. But of course, when I dive in and actually learn a song, I have to dip in there. And Christian's album as a whole, I think I pay attention to the lyrics more than most because it's so lyrically driven. And as we were saying, he keeps it in focus along with the melody. Everything about the album directs you to the words and the singing, you know? So overall, the lyrics in this song, to me, and I can't wait to hear what your opinion on it is that like, it's just kind of a couple snapshots of his relationship with this person. Not a romantic relationship, a friendship, which is even better because like we don't have very many songs about friendship. You know, most songs they have to add some type of like sexualized element.
Yeah.
I wish it were romantic.
Yeah.
It's like,
No, it is a nice like just a change of pace from what we've had, you know, in our experience.
BC before Christian.
Yes. That's good. God dang it. Okay. So I agree. These lyrics, I mean, I think that they piece together to tell a story that it kind of like perfectly prefaces the rest of the album, you know, and such a package deal. Like this is so beautifully put together. And I know that like it sucks because like we picked the best song for the first one. Like I feel like I'm talking so passionately about this specific topic and album, and then like the next ones I'm going to be like, yeah, it's good.
It's all right
It's
if you're into that kind of
good.
thing.
Yeah,
you know, I think this album is like you were saying, it's a package deal. It's not a singles album. To me, there's like no purpose in like, I'll just listen to that one song. I listen to the whole album every time, dude.
Yeah, nearly every time for me too. Yeah, every once in a while I'll just put it on shuffle because I know it so well. But it really is like once again we return to Christian's focus, just dedicated, like undying focus of theme, you know, and cohesion, and like so he's with his, in my mind, the character is with his sister Katie. They grew up in the house together, you know. And they're on vacation. They're driving south. They're driving because Christian lives up north, I think like Minnesota, if I remember.
Can I add something real quick?
Yeah.
So that live stream I sent you, I think he says it in there, is that despite how these songs sound, they're not necessarily autobiographical.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That I didn't actually read it as, because I don't know if he has a sister, but Katie leans over my lap looking out the window for a glimpse of the house we were kids in. You know, in my mind, like they grew up in this house in the suburbs of Chicago, right? You know,
somewhere around there,
somewhere close by. And they were like super poor. Like they clearly struggled. Like there's that sadness that is just evident throughout the album. It's like it's coming to terms. It's literally like it's accepting your roots. It's coming to terms with like your beginnings, you know. And he's struggling so much to love all of himself. Like he's in so much pain throughout this album, you know, and it's in this song is so beautiful because it's that sibling, like it really emphasizes the bond that siblings have, this bond that goes beyond what any friendship could, because you know the stuff you've seen and your sibling does too, and you know it more intimately than anyone else, you know, like you share those experiences with your family and like those core values.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see the bittersweet essence come through in this, because that flavor is it ricochets throughout the album, you know.
But what about this song though?
So like the bittersweet taste of like I hated it then, but now I kind of miss it. You know, she misses her mom. She misses like that struggle, like their family struggled with money. They've struggled with addiction, you know, the cigarettes, they're smoking cigarettes, they got trash, and they're, instead of like, they don't have a working washer, they're washing their clothes in cups in the microwave, you know, like, they're struggling, but without that, they never would have become what they are now. And they, you know, like it's all of the contrast and the various shades of life, you know, that like make it worth. They color it, they fill it out.
There's something interesting to me where I get a little bit lost, and just because I don't see the connection doesn't mean I think it's not good. I think I really like every line of this. But so the first one we got on our initial descent into Chicago, Katie leans over my lap looking out the window for a glimpse of the house we were kids in. She says, I hated it then, but now I kind of miss it. And then he describes it for a moment. Shirts in the microwave, trash in the sink. when he says quarters in a mason jar for every time she smokes, she says, if we keep this up, girls, in no time we'll be broke. Who's keeping those quarters in the mason jar? Is that mom?
That's the most sense that I can make
because
out of
it sounds like something an adult
specific.
would do.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
it's super inspecific, but
Yeah.
I think that I think that the mom is likely talking to the kids too.
Is the narrator a female?
It seems suggested here, and I definitely
That's something I think's interesting about this.
But if that's true, then the narrator isn't necessarily consistent throughout the album because he altered. There's a different perspectives.
I don't think this is a concept album.
Okay,
I think it's an album rooted in some
themes.
specific themes, but I don't think it's a story from point A to point B.
That's fair. Yeah.
That's it. I don't think it's a problem if you think of it that way.
No, I mean, I think of it as this very nostalgic, like dealing with coming to terms with your childhood and like all of the stuff that happened to you, you know, in high school, you know, growing up, like, oh, we had this failed band, we had, you know, all of these, you know, these experiences that shape you. And I think that the chorus, the reason this is such a perfect beginning, the chorus, it perfectly encapsulates not only being being in the present moment. It's like, hey, I don't remember how I got here. I don't like the past isn't real, like, and the future isn't real. I don't know where I'm going, you know, but or I don't know if I'm going to miss you where I'm going now. Sorry. He deals with not only like the past and the future and living in the present, but also like what the afterlife will be like, you know. In my mind, this person grew up in a religious home, and that's part of them coming to terms with their childhood and accepting where they came from. Is like, hey, I don't know if heaven's real. I don't know what this life thing is that you threw me into, you know, but like, it is what it is. I don't know. You know, like he deals with so many huge themes here.
He deals with them in like
such a passive way.
Yeah, and see, so when he says, "I don't know if I'm going to miss you where I'm going now," to me, and again, I'm not saying I'm right on this. To me, that's not an afterlife thing. What I get from that is, it's almost a callback to when Katie says, "I hated it then, but now I kind of miss it." Mm-hmm. By being like, we're always trying to move forward in life. Mm-hmm. You don't know what the things you're going to miss are going to be. Mm-hmm. So just like she misses that house that she absolutely hated, that's what I get from that line. Mm-hmm. Of even though I'm kind of feeling indifferent about this moment, I don't know if it's going to be one of those things I miss.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's where I got from that anyway.
Yeah, I think and I get where you're coming from. I think what ties in, like, solidifies for me my theory about the afterlife is the title and the getting older and slowing down. Like, those to me are implications that, like, okay,
that's a good point.
He's heading for death, you know, just like we all are. And he's kind of looking at everything and being like reevaluating life, looking back on his life and preparing for the inevitable end.
I think that's interesting because I take it as hearing it from someone as close to Christian as possible as a narrator, whether it's a male or female speaking here. I take it as somebody who is Christian's age in their 30s, dealing with the first signs of aging, you know? So that's really interesting. And do you think, now we talked about highly specific things, kind of drawing people in, but
20th of October.
As we're seeing is, as this song's so specific, there's enough ambiguity to it that we could both sit here. Me and you have just heard different songs completely from the same song.
Oh, yeah.
Which is great, you know? There's some detective work to be done here.
No, for sure. Yeah. And like he's so good at doing that. Like what you're talking just about, like inserting subtle jokes, you know, like little, like, yeah, he's very, very good at
there's a
subtlety.
Good sense of humor in a lot of his stuff.
And
It's interesting how you relate the atheist theme to it, because for a while I was a little bit puzzled about why it was called Atheist. Mm-hmm. And my take on that was that I'm assuming he's still talking about Katie in verse 2. She said some kids from the Christian school. He has his own school. That's something I picked up on. Christian has his own school. Came to sing her a song. It went something like "Angels watching over us all our little lives," and she goes, "I don't know if I buy it, but it does sound kind of nice." Mm-hmm. So I thought the atheist was the subject of the song, Katie being an atheist, and that despite that, she can't take that huge optimistic jump into faith. She recognizes that, like, man, that would be nice, you know?
Right. Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that, you know, I think that in my mind, the first chorus is sang by, the first chorus is almost like him, like by himself, and the second one is them together. And I don't know, like, I just remember thinking that. I remember her, like, kind of, it's like, almost like, yeah.
You know, it would have been cool if on that second chorus, egg on my face if this is what happens, but I don't think it does. There's like a couple songs Phoebe Bridgers sings on. She doesn't sing on this one at all.
I don't believe so.
Imagine if she had been on that last chorus.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to nitpick because the song's like, and production is like perfect as it is.
Right.
But it would be cool if both their voices were on that last chorus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, definitely. And so, yeah, I don't know. Like, if you want to get a little bit into the second verse, because I feel like the first verse we covered pretty well. What?
Do you want to read the second verse?
Sure. The 20th of October, hair of the dog, a blanket on your shoulder, reading the menu in an accent, trying to get you laughing. But she said some kids from the Christian school came to sing her a song, and it went like, "Angels watching over us all our little lives. I don't know if I buy it, but it does sound kind of nice."
It's really hard to read it without singing it, isn't it?
Oh, I know, yeah.
Like, that melody is so perfectly married to the lyrics. If I can make a quick point about this, I get asked like once a week, which comes first, the melody or the lyrics? Mm-hmm. And I say that sometimes I'll have like a melodic idea, and sometimes I'll have a line or two written, but the two more often than not, for me, they have to come together so they can sound married to one another, or else, and maybe it's just because I'm the writer, it sounds like I applied a melody to a poem I wrote, or I applied a poem to a melody I wrote. They never sound like the same thing. Mm-hmm. And it just really stands out to me that, like, I cannot divorce these lyrics from the melody. And I think that's what you got to go for all the time.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's fair. Yeah, because like the whole time, I mean, rhythmically and everything, I was reading it, you know?
Yeah.
Falling into that pattern.
Like, if I was reading it, I would want to say, even if I wasn't singing it, I'd want to be like, hair of the dog, a blanket on your shoulder. You know, like.
Shoulder. Yeah, that's funny. So the 20th of October, I think that also is an important detail, just because, like, October has such a specific tone that it's such an appropriate. It's late October. It's getting cool.
And it's like the perfect time to have a blanket on your shoulders.
It is, yeah.
Like, you don't need to be like secured in the blanket. Mm-hmm. You just need a little added warmth, especially when you're hungover.
Oh, yeah. No, definitely. Exactly. And like, it's almost like, you know, maybe they got where they were going. You know, they got through Chicago, they're heading down south, and then they stopped somewhere.
In the land of the pines.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. No. But no, they got, I imagine, you know, after that night of reminiscing or whatever, they got drunk together.
How do you know they're southbound?
Because he descended into Chicago. They don't necessarily have to be southbound, but on our initial descent. So in my mind, he's coming down.
Oh, I thought that was a plane landing.
Oh,
well, yeah, because Katie leans over his lap to look out the window. He's got the window seat.
Yeah. Oh. Unless that's funny. I never would have thought descent as in, oh, that's so weird. Because I'm imagining they're going south in a car, and the house is on the side of the road that he's driving. You know, like, or like the narrator's driving, and she leans over his lap. That's my take. So that's funny. I think because how would you see the house?
Well, okay, yeah, exactly. Like, I I think the best you could look for is like the neighborhood if you're lucky. I definitely think that they're on a plane at the beginning.
You do?
Oh, without a doubt. Unless they were in like Milwaukee and they're like driving down to Chicago, in which case they'd be entering the north side of it. Because it's a descent into Chicago.
Right. Yeah.
So
that's what I mean.
But,
he's
like,
coming from up north.
Does the car only have one window and she has to lean over him?
No, because the house is on
I
the side.
see.
Yeah, it's on the opposite side of the road.
I like that we're having this talk, dude.
Yeah.
Because
that's so funny.
Yeah, now that you say that.
I imagine them driving like a crappy old truck.
Yeah.
And she's like leaning over his lap, you know? And then like... And she was like, wow, I really missed that. Anyways, they get where they're going, and they get drunk because they had this long, you know, in his mind, and this guy's a quiet guy. He's not a man of many words.
Or
you know,
might be a female.
But this person is quiet, and they're carrying the weight of the chorus on their shoulders by themselves.
Yeah.
You know, but they're sharing that moment with their sibling. And then they get there together and they de-stress through alcohol, the only way that we know how. And October 20th. So they go out to breakfast. She's hungover. Katie's hungover. She's drinking just a little bit, like a nip of whiskey, and has a blanket around her. It's a dreary day. And then, like, in my mind, he's just like, he knows, or in my mind, it's not Christian, but it's this Christian character.
Yeah,
person.
the narrator.
Yeah. They know, can sense that something's wrong, and they're trying to cheer him up. You know,
that line,
la, 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 you know,
reading the
whatever.
menu in an accent, trying to get you laughing.
So good.
It makes me so uncomfortable because it hits so hard.
Oh, it does.
It's so relatable that, like, that line, like, makes me uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah, that's funny.
It's such a tame line.
Oh,
but I have a visceral reaction to it, where it's
so
like
funny 'cause
all the
it
times I've
calms
been
me.
there.
Yeah,
You
like
know?
I have an opposite reaction than yours. That's what's so funny is because, like, I just see myself, like, I just do goofy stuff like that, you know, like, just to, like, because I love the person that puts themselves out there to, like, potentially be like a goofball or an idiot just to, like, smooth over the social circle. You know what I mean?
You must really love yourself.
I love myself.
I'm kidding.
No, I throw myself under the bus of it's like it falls to awkward silence, and I'm like, hey, like, let's make fun of me.
why it hits me so hard is, like, you know, like, I've always dealt with depression, and, like, if I'm down, I never lash out at other people, but, like, I don't have the energy to react to the other person. So, like, I see them trying to cheer me up, and I have, like, it's not working because only I can get myself through this. And I just, on top of my depression, I feel absolutely horrible for this person trying to make me laugh, and I just can't do it. You know, so I think that's why you're relating to the jokester. A jokester makes it sound like they're mean-spirited, but you're relating to the narrator, and I'm actually, in this specific case, I'm relating to
Katie.
Yeah.
You know, Yeah. I just think I think it's fascinating because they, you know, it's so simple and it's so inspecific, but I think that he touches on themes of you know, of aging, of coming to terms with your past and your upbringing and your family, you know, and death and mortality. And he really hits just about everything on the head. Religion, you know, all of it. In my mind, with this song, he hits it all on the head.
It almost feels like they there's no evidence of this, but it almost feels like they're like driving to or from their mother's funeral. Like that's the vibe I get from this.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Like they're like, it's this,
a moment when everything's changed and there's uncertainty, and it changes the way that you look at nostalgia and your history.
But there's like this strength in shouldering it together. That you can, that's there. It's there as obvious as the foundation of, you know, the song. It is, and it's so, like, I know that I'm just being a nerd about it right now, and like I'm making these connections just like, oh wow, how deep. Because I think, you know, but it is, I don't know how much of this is intentional. I think a lot of it is just him dealing with life, you know.
That's the Lit 110 problem, is lit teachers, presumably because they haven't figured out how to write on their own, are overcomplicating the issue, and they think that every single line was like a decision that the writer labored over. And I don't get me wrong, I feel like Christian labors over his songs probably more than a lot of people.
Right.
But there's sometimes
the context of what he means, you can build up to be so much more.
Exactly. And a lot of times, like, when you're writing a song, your subconscious is speaking through you with certain themes and unifying them, and your higher brain's like finding a way to communicate them. And sometimes as a writer, and I'm not speaking for Christian, but just as a writer, sometimes you don't even recognize the themes, the unifying themes of your song when you write it. You figure it out like a year or two later when you're playing it one day, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, no, definitely.
You don't have to be a mastermind to do this.
No. And what's so funny, so it's like once you've established your reputation as a creative person or like an artist or whatever it is, or even just like being clever. And I'm not saying I'm clever, but like there's people that to me, that I know personally, that are almost like kind of mystical sometimes. Yeah. Because you like this, they'll just like pull something out, or they'll do something that you're just like, how did that, you thought so fast? Like your mind just worked so fast. What in the hell?
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I think this brings up an interesting point is a lot of times we feel close to specific artists whose work we love. But what's interesting about that is that closeness you feel to them is based off of songs that like took up maybe 2 hours of their day, 5 days a week or something. We're talking about this small nugget of the person, you know? And in our minds, the writer, that's their whole life, you know? And I always find that as an interesting thing. Like I always think about that with the Milk Cartoon Kids camp that I went to last year. Is like, I've seen those guys on stage like 15 times. But when we were in the same room together, I had to divorce my opinions of them or how I thought they would be, or else I wouldn't have been able to talk to them and function around them, you know? And then you meet them as people, and it's like, oh, they're really not that different from everybody else, you know, in the best way possible. You know, the last thing you want is like the songwriter to be walking around like, oh, I am the songwriter, you know, like you don't want that.
Right.
But in a lot of cases, the only window we have into the author's work is the window they provide us. And that's great. Cause like, you don't want to, like, if you find out that like Christian Hutson is just as boring as everyone else, the work might not shine and shimmer so much. I don't know if we should take this part out. This seems negative. So we pretty much looked over the whole song as best we could, had some differing opinions, which is cool. I think the more differing opinions we have, the better this whole thing's going to be. Not that we should just play devil's advocate.
No, but it's hard for me not to do that, though.
Yeah, because that's just what we do. Yeah. You know?
I would say, like, the number one thing that sticks out to me, just the consistency and, like, cohesiveness of this song and of Christian in general. It's such... like, that is something that I really admire in songwriting and something that I want to replicate and, like, am working on it actively, you know? But it's hard to know exactly how to break up your old patterns.
Yeah, get rid of those automatic things. So to reiterate that, so the consistency on, like, every factor, just like his song, like the sounds of the chords are like consistent, the way he builds off them, like we were talking about. Yeah, there's a consistency to the neighborhood the notes are in, like
and just like thematically, you know, I personally, like, one of the things that I love the most about creating is just pulling together this like a package deal, you know, like everything correlates and like ties together in a way that's like, that it just makes sense. And that's something that I love seeing in other people's art and that I've tried before in the past to do. I don't know, to what amount of success, but yeah.
You know, it reminds me of this Nick Cave quote, and he was describing songwriter or being a songwriter, and he's like, you have a room and you put a clown in it, you put a child in it, and you put like a housewife in it. And then you see what happens. And if nothing's happening, you shoot the clown. And like, that's the vibe that I got from what you just said about, and you've said it twice so far on here, about the songwriter, the artist connects two things. Mm-hmm. And the better, more authentic your connection is between the two things is in such a way that people can't even tell that they're being connected. No. Because it's like they're one thing. Yeah. I think the art that doesn't resonate so much is when you can still see like the Frankenstein stitches. Uh-huh. And you know these weren't, you know, one whole, it wasn't a whole idea beforehand. Yeah.
No, it's interesting because I agree to some extent.
But we definitely are not going to have time to get into like, that's a whole nother topic, man. I think we should do one of our more specific like music theory centered episodes on that, though, for sure. On music that's built around the seams versus music that's built to hide the seams. So yeah, we're gonna have to wrap things up though. So
please check out youcanwritesongs.com or check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, wherever you like to find people. We'll be there.
Hey there, this is You Can Write Songs podcast, and this is a continuation of last week's episode, which was on Atheist by Christian Lee Hutson.
So, yeah, last week I got bamboozled into learning Atheist by Christian Lee Hutson.